Meanwhile, the White House is pushing back this morning against a proposal from Senate Republicans to have stricter border security policies than what we have right now. They want stricter policies to President Biden's supplemental funding request for Israel and Ukraine. Watch this.
The Senate Republicans did push forward a border security legislation. We certainly think that if they are going to be serious, then they should have a serious conversation with us about it. We would love to have that conversation on how we can move forward in a real way, or they should just support what the president put forward. But we need to see something a lot more serious than what they put forward.
Right. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says that the package likely will not make it through the chamber without stricter border policies. Watch this.
We have to have a credible solution to the wide open border. We're talking about a change in policy, not sending money, for example, to New York or to Chicago. So we're very serious about this, and I think it will be difficult to get the package across the floor in the Senate without a credible border solution.
Meanwhile, a bipartisan group of mayors in the United States Conference of Mayors sent a letter to Congress demanding funding for the border and migrant services be included in that spending bill. Joining me right now is former acting DHS Secretary and Executive Director at the America First Policy Institute, Chad Wolf. Chad, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Last time I checked, the border did not need any more money. It was really about policy changes. If you're sending more money to the border, won't the administration use that to just create more housing for the migrants as opposed to actually securing the border?
Well, Maria, you're absolutely right. There's not a funding problem along that border. There's a policy problem. And how do we know this? Because each and every month, the numbers and the situation along that border keeps getting worse. If you recall, Congress appropriated DHS $1.5 billion last year. And I would tell you that the situation's only gotten worse because they use that funding to continue their failed strategy, which is just processing more and more migrants through and sending them to U.S. communities all across this country. So until there's policy changes along that border, I don't think that you're going to see any change in the crisis that we've seen now for 34 months.
Monica Crowley's here this morning. Monica, I don't know how long the White House can continue this lie that the border is secure and there's nothing really to be done in terms of securing it.
Well, when the White House and the Democrats have the protection of the propaganda press that will amplify these lies and do their dirty work and advance their agenda, then they don't need to really worry about stopping the lies, nor about changing the policy. And Chad, I want to ask you, so many people are saying, well, what's the administration's plan on the border and illegal immigration? The previous administration under President Trump really had the illegal immigration problem solved, as well as enforcing the border. Now we've had nearly 3 years of the Biden administration just having a wide open border. They continue to lie to us, but people are saying, well, what's the plan? This is the plan. Otherwise, you would have gotten a course correction by now, just out of sheer desire for political survival. They have not done it. So are we looking at the last year of the Biden administration even worse in terms of the number of illegals and gotaways coming across the border?
Well, you're right. This has all been by design. It's been 2.5 to almost 3 years of this. If they wanted to change course, they've had plenty of time to do that, and they've had time to change their policies to match that. They haven't done that, and so they're doing exactly what they've told the American people they're doing. Now, they'll stand up at the White House podium and say, no, don't look over here. The border is secure. We're doing everything. But the reality and their actions don't match their words. And so I think, the Republican measure that they're putting forth in the Senate's a good first start. It's actually trying to change some of that policy, and that's why you have the White House spokesperson saying, we don't support it. Because if you want to change policy, we're not behind it, because we're doing and we're executing on a strategy exactly what we want to see along that border.
Well, it actually even gets worse than that, potentially, because the House Judiciary Committee is launching an investigation into the administration's handling of the border crisis and whether it had the authority to actually go and cut the razor wire in Texas. That razor wire was installed by local authorities, Chad, and apparently they were cutting it to ensure that the migrants would not have a problem at the border. Now the judiciary wants to know when this started, how much was cut. Your thoughts?
Well, I think it's an important investigation to get to. I think the investigation should really continue to focus on the failed policies and strategies along that border. We're putting our Border Patrol men and women in an impossible situation as these migrants come across. They get tangled up in this concertina wire, and then the Border Patrol has to go in and rescue them. So they should never be put in this position. We should have policies that deter and hold people accountable for this type of behavior. And the federal government's done everything they can to block the state of Texas and others from actually putting reasonable measures in place. They go to court and they sue them time and time again.
Yeah.
We do not have a federal government that's interested in border security any longer.
But why not? I mean, look, we've got another caravan right now on the way. Hundreds of migrants are expected to join this caravan of 7,000 people. Already it's more than 7,000 people. They're on their way to the southern border this week. This happening as there are heightened national security concerns at the border after Hamas's attack on Israel. Customs and Border Patrol agents have apprehended 169 people who are actually on the terror watch list suspects. They're on the terror watch list. This was just this year, fiscal year 2023, Chad. We also, of course, point out the fact that you had 2,000 Chinese nationals coming across the border in a 2-week period. Why? Are they being directed by Xi Jinping? Are they settling here until they get better direction from Xi Jinping? If there's a war between the two nations, and what should we think about these people coming, special interest aliens coming from the Middle East during this war on Israel?
Well, this is definitely difficult to watch because I think most reasonable Americans would say you've got to do something different. You see all these special interest aliens, these known and suspected terrorists being apprehended at the border. You see this, you got to change course and you got to change strategy. You got to put deterrence back into the system. The Biden administration doesn't do any of it. They just put their heads in the sand and say, we're going to continue to do what we're doing and let all these individuals in. So, again, part of this is Congress. They need to start holding them accountable, which I think the House is starting to do.
Yeah.
You've got to cut the funding for these programs. You've got to hit them where it hurts. And for the department, that's in the budget in their purse because they want to continue to fund cities and these non-governmental organizations to keep processing these individuals. So you've got to make it painful for them, and you got to hold them accountable.
Well, we keep hearing about the power of the purse from the House. We'll see if they use it. Chad, good to see you. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Chad Wolf joining us this morning
Thank you.
on the Wide Open Border. Stay with us. We'll be right back.